Present at the meeting,
Good idea.
President Chris Pashon. Online, Council Member Kevin Charbonneau. Do we have him online? Can you confirm?
Let me see the last two.
Hi, son.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Curtis, Councilmember Upper Chase, Treasurer Johnson, City Manager Jonathan Delabria. Also, I have Mr. Berniers here. I have online Mr. Brown. I have Mr. Cheney. I have our interim fire chief. I have Mr. Walsh. Anybody else that I'm missing? We have the press. I think we got them all, right? Okay. Next item on the agenda is additions, deletions to the agenda. President Pashon,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Charbonneau,
Yes. I believe Jonathan advised that he was going to have spoken with all the non-union members and that we could revisit the personnel policy. Is that possible?
so, Councilman, we had that on and we had to take it off because we have, a meeting coming up that hasn't been concluded yet, that is important to finish. So, I think it's one meeting left, right? And so once the city manager has that meeting, we will definitely put that on. So we have moved it to the next agenda, and our hopes are that we won't have to keep moving it, but we do need to have that union meeting first.
Okay. And the meetings regarding the grievance policy?
This is the meeting regarding the personnel policy and the entire personnel policy and issues that we wanted to discuss with the union members, so with the union. So we're waiting to have that meeting and it will be everything and then we'll bring it back. And so we're not limiting it, we're not limiting it to just one issue. It's going to be a discussion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I looked up about message. And did you say union members or non-union?
Union.
Okay.
The meeting that the city manager has already had the meetings with employees and so on. So this is just the final meeting that we really believe is necessary so we could be totally informed. Because otherwise we're going to be left without being able to make any decisions if we don't have that meeting.
All right. Yeah, I guess I was a little confused because the policy the part of the personnel policy had nothing to do with the union members and specifically the non-union. So I'm unsure why the union members would, we would need their input on that part of the policy.
Well, because we're not doing just a discussion on one part, and if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, you, council member, had brought up the police union specifically as well back then, and so we are having discussions with everybody just to make sure that when we bring it back, we've had full discussions and we can deal with all of the elements that are out there.
All right, and that'll happen next council meeting?
Yes, we thought we'd be able to get it done by this time, but the city manager had other obligations and they just could not coordinate a meeting time, but discussions for that meeting are taking place. And if necessary, council member, if necessary, if it happens and you feel you want a special meeting, just let me know.
No.
we can talk throughout, earlier during the week, and if you feel you need a special council meeting because you don't want to wait, just let me know.
No, I guess we don't need to add it. I'll make time to speak with Jonathan
Good.
and find out more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on additions and deletions. Councilmember Curtis.
I would like to add to the agenda, application from Todd Wright's Brothers Metal for certificate of approval for their salvage yard location, immediately after 3D.
I have a motion to add the application, following 3D, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Councilmember Chase?
Nothing to add.
Treasurer Johnson?
No.
City Manager? And I have nothing as well. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes our regular minutes for May 6th, payroll warrant, accounts payable warrant for May 13, 2024, liquor licenses, vendor permits, and special events permits. Does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd like to say something. I didn't.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have the warrant report for checks. I don't have a payroll.
I did not get any of the payroll warrants.
You didn't get it either, or you didn't do it?
I did not get them to include them.
Oh. So we can't approve that. And I just, I have a couple questions on the check warrant.
Okay, do you want to go to your questions?
Okay. JPC card, which probably is the water tower. So, and it's a question. So, there's a check warrant for $160,247.44. I guess I don't understand what that is. And then the one following it for $31,500.
Both for the water tower project.
Right, but am I correct in assuming this is a check request for that amount of money?
There were two pay requisition requests. Yep.
Just part of,
Part of the project, so they had to order all the materials that were stockpiled on site.
okay, I just didn't know what it was.
Water tower project.
Okay.
That'll be, both of those will be paid from the local ARPA funds that
Right,
Newport had.
yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so let me make sure that I have this, Councilmember. We're going to remove the payroll warrant unless you have it for here to see.
Tim, do you have payroll warrants?
No. You mind, payrolls only every 2 weeks.
But there would be one last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
She normally emails it to you, once she gets them done.
Okay. Never got this one.
Okay, so we will, and correct me, right? We're gonna remove the payroll warrant from the consent agenda. We're good with the accounts payable, liquor license vendor, and special events.
This would have been payroll for the city.
Everybody good with that? Good with that?
Yes.
Councilmember Charbonneau, are you good with that?
Yep, I'm fine.
Okay. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the regular meeting minutes of May 6, 2024, accounts payable warrant May 13, 2024, liquor licenses, vendor permits, and special events permits.
I'll move it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the consent agenda is carried. Now we will proceed to the Wright Brothers Metal application, a certificate of approval for location of a salvage yard. Step on up.
Thank you. Yeah, so every 5 years, the Vermont State Salvage Yard Program makes me update the coal plan, which is a certified location or approved location. So this is the third time I've been in front of the council. Every 5 years, so this is the end of the 10th year for another 5-year renewal of the coal application.
Okay. So may I have a motion to approve the certificate of approval for the location of the salvage yard? I have a check here for $25. I have the applicant, Wright Brothers, Vermont LLC.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Questions?
I noticed a box that it had 1 to 5 years and it was blank.
Right, so that you guys could decide, I could have to come every year, or I could do up to 5 years.
Just asking.
So that's another,
So the motion was
So for 5 years.
for, somewhere there is a box. When I looked at this earlier, could be on the other page, where it identified,
This is gonna be for 5. That's the only one. We have the application fee. Yeah,
yeah, I
so
think
we
that's
do.
what it is.
Right, so I have a motion and I have a second. All those in
Actually,
favor?
can
Right,
I ask a
go.
question?
Sure.
So I'm new to this and haven't seen this before tonight.
Okay.
Can you just tell me, are there any outstanding complaints?
No, the Vermont has a pretty good salvage program. They inspect us a couple times a year. This is just formality, pretty much for the town or city to make sure it's in a location that meets their goals. And that's an industrial property up there too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the one on the Concord Road?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Here we go. Let's see, make sure I'm signing this in the right place. You'll have to go to Frank.
Well, it says if applicable.
If applicable, so we're good.
I believe so. I know they
So
got
I
a
just have
permit
to
years
sign
ago.
it here. That's it. Wait, just did I get any signatures?
Is this something Kevin will have to come in for, or is it just quorum, okay?
Quorum's good on this. Councilmember Charbonneau, since we're signing this and you are, of course, virtual, we're doing it as a quorum.
I'm sorry, there was a lot of feedback.
Okay, I apologize. So since we've all signed it and there's a quorum here, so you're virtual, so we're going to have this go through with just note that you were here and approved.
Yeah, or somebody could sign
We can scan
and just put your initial above my signature.
it. Okay, okay, or I'm gonna ask the city manager to just scan it to you, so you at least know what you're signing. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, next up, and I ask that you speak through the mayor and hold any questions until recognized. If this is a quick presentation by the Northeast Kingdom Rainbow Coalition. Is this, hello.
Council members,
Thank
Mayor
you.
Sullivan, Mr. Manager, Mr. Treasurer. My name is Samantha Simcoe, and I'm Treasurer of the Northeast Kingdom Rainbow Coalition. On Sunday, June 23rd, we're pleased to announce the second annual Pride Fest parade and concert celebration. The parade will be at Main Street. The concert celebration will be at Gardner Park. Last year was a great success. It's great for Newport. We're expecting even better participation this year. We had 5 New England states represented last year, as well as our neighbors from the north. And we're very pleased. Brought some notes.
Good.
Last year was successful, well-organized, and well-attended. Individuals and families all came and joined in with the fun. Event permit and insurance are currently being worked on, and we expect that to all be resolved very shortly. And in addition, I'd like to point out Felicia, who is with us tonight, has been interfacing with the Chief of Police and the Parks and Rec Department in order to make sure, as did last year, that this year's is going to be smooth and safe and fun for everybody. Northeast Kingdom Rainbow Coalition is 501c3 charity right now. Therefore, the Pride Fest is being funded completely by donations. And we're very, very pleased about that. We have submitted paperwork for nonprofit status as a 501c3 charity, and we expect that to be coming through very shortly as well, relatively. So this time we'd like to formally invite the mayors and the members of the city council, treasurer, and city manager to march in our parade near the front, right behind the Grand Marshal Parade. We're pleased to have you join us, and we hope you'll consider joining us. And I'm wondering if there are any questions.
Well, congratulations, well presented.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
Councilmember Charbonneau, do you have any questions? Yes. If he does.
No problem.
There we go. Well, this is exciting for you, and we look forward to it.
Great.
And we can just reach out if we have any, confirmations or anything, or if you have any issues, you'll reach out to the treasurer, or the treasurer is
Certainly.
working with you on whatever you need.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is discussion about the creation of Newport's first city dog park. I just want to recognize Mr. Bernie.
So everybody got the memo? I've had this thought for a while, didn't really know where we could put one. But while we're doing the Gardner Park project, we took down quite a bit of fence, 4-foot fence. That would certainly close in the point the 3.1 section that I highlighted in there. It used to be the community gardens right along the river. I did actually map out another little section that's .21 that would give a half an acre for a dog park. We don't have enough fence, so if everybody liked the idea, we certainly, there is a contest grant that's out there that Jonathan and I had talked about that we might want to look at to expand it a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of land in the city of Newport. I'm hoping this little park is a hit. Maybe somebody in the area has a little bit bigger spot that they might be willing to, you know, give up for a dog park. But that's my spiel.
So I have some questions as an owner of 4 dogs. Is somebody organizing this with you? Is this
No,
just
this
the
is
first?
my idea, my wife's idea, actually. Always said it would be nice to have a dog park. And it got me thinking when we pulled the fence down at Garden Park that I had some fence that we can reuse, plus the posts. So I had looked at that site previously. There's already a fence along the interchange, which helps us. And then on the back side, so I'd have to close it with these 2 sides. It really wouldn't be, you probably have to buy a gate. I don't have a gate for it. So we might have to spend a little bit of money, but not much, to create a dog park.
And then I guess you'll work through with talk about the grants and then come back with any points that the grant would want and
Sure, I
so
think
on.
at this point, I can close in the .31 acre section. If I add to it, I don't have enough fence. So at that point, maybe we want to look at this grant and add to it and do other things to it.
Any question?
I like the idea. I do like the idea of starting with just the .31, seeing if it's used by the community before we expand it. I know when we did have a dog, going out to Derby to the dog park was quite a trek, so having one kind of in the center of Newport would be nice. I like it.
I love the idea, but I don't like the location. Due to the high usage of, what is this called, the gazebo?
The gazebo?
Yeah. You know, the only way through is by a concert going on or sometimes a wedding.
So those probably would have hours for the dog park though, and if there was an occasion of something going on, you could always post times that if it would interfere, right?
I guess we could.
But, I mean, those are things that could be regulated, but.
As far as locations in the city, we are very limited for space. If we were to put it anywhere, we'd have to give up a rec field, quite honestly. I don't think that's gonna be.
Just one
That
thing
used to
about-
be the community gardens, and there's a picnic table over it. I think the fishermen use it. I will leave the fence so that I've got a 10-foot separation between the riverbank so I don't interfere with fishermen. It's up to you. Again, there's not much area in the city of Newport to put up that we own.
So would it be set up so that it would be, and I'm just asking just general questions from, would it be so there'd be like a section for large dogs and then a separate section for small dogs, or just kind of go with it and take care of? Just a total open area where the owners are responsible for the behavior?
So, can I pick it back up?
Sure.
Both of you, actually. Would we be able to get signs saying that things like that, that owners would be responsible?
Oh, sure,
Okay.
sure. I'm sure, you know, dog parks have rules. And we could also add in a rule, hey, if there's a wedding at the bandstand,
That's it.
please don't.
I'm kind of wondering, though, and if there's a concert going on, would that attract some more people to it and they can play with their dogs while listening to the concert?
Yeah, the dog's gonna howl in the back. And okay, Councilman Charbonneau, did you have any questions or comments? I'm gonna keep calling on you only because I don't wanna be rude.
Well, thank you very much. No, I think it's a great idea, and I've spoken to some people, and they actually thought it was the perfect location. it's kind of secluded and, yeah, they're all for it. It's a great idea.
So if you go ahead and do this, how soon would you be able to do it?
Very soon. So we're currently in Gardner Park, doing the remediation right now. We haven't pulled out the rest of the posts. We've been pulling the posts out and bringing them over there, hoping that I get a yes vote tonight. And we will probably start putting the posts in immediately.
So we have this on as a discussion, but if anybody would like to bring a motion to allow Mr. Bernier to proceed with this, you're the council, go for it.
I do have another question, but
Sure.
I see Ms. Lyons has her hand
I have a question.
Yeah, just give me.
up. All right. Is there any like state regulations about opening dog parks, having dog parks?
Not that I'm aware of. The only thing I really looked up for dog parks was sizes, things to do. There's Pet Safe is the company that, you know, if you want to apply, it's kind of a contest. Not that I'm aware of.
And I'm sure that if we vote, you do all the due diligence.
Zoning,
Right, and all.
zoning permit, well, you can't start unless you have a zoning permit.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So everything would be with all the compliance and understood that compliance would take
He
place.
can't, he wants to start tomorrow or this week, but I'm interested in what the zoning administrator thinks.
Oh, sure. So the question from the council member is, are there zoning issues? Does permits necessary?
It depends whether the council wants to apply private zoning rules to the public, because if a private entity wanted to put this here, they would need a permit. Historically, it's been done both ways in the city of Newport. I've seen the bigger projects go through permits and the smaller ones not. If you ask an attorney, he's going to tell you that the public sector has to go through the same process as the private sector. So if you're asking me the question, if the private sector was going to do this, would they need a permit? Yes, is the answer.
How long is that process, do you know? Is it a long process?
No. No.
It's not administrative, right? If you don't have a hearing?
I don't think it's, I think it will be an administrative permit, but I'd have to look to make sure what's allowed there, Clark. I think that you probably want to wait until you approve it to see if you can actually put it there. Is that direct enough?
You should just tweak that a little bit. Okay, so yes.
Have you talked to the people in Derby at the park there? And the reason I'm asking that is they've had some challenges. And the way they've resolved them is by having a very active group, sort of like a board, and they're the ones who police it. They're the ones who make sure that people pick up after the dogs, because just because it's an open space doesn't mean your dog gets to poop wherever he or she wants without somebody mopping up. And they're the ones who worked out the discipline pieces. If you take that on, that's a massive load to take on. If you want it, go for it.
We have staff.
Being an old insurance agent, might want to check with the Vermont Leagues of City Town. Make sure that they don't have any regulations or rules that apply to it, stuff like that. So they may want a double access door, you may already have that in your plan.
Right, and I think where we're going with the motion, if somebody brings it, is to allow this process, to allow Mr. Bernier to start looking into the process and come back to us and let us know what needs to be done. But with the approval of that, it's a good idea to do this, that the council's in agreement, but rely upon Mr. Bernier to go forward and find out the compliance, the regulations, and come back to us with that. Ms. Burley?
Jennifer Bierling, resident Newport, Vermont. You might want to talk to the city attorney as well, to just make sure that if somebody gets bitten, that the city's not going to assume a liability in that
Yeah,
regard.
we'll take care of all the legal side, we just need to first get through. It's fine.
Beth Barnes, Newport resident. I've only had experience at dog parks in bigger cities in Long Beach and the city of St. Louis. And they actually both, and I'm sure this could translate to smaller towns as well, you have to provide proof that your dog has been vaccinated and rabies. And in those cities, you actually have to buy some sort of little permit that allows you to be part of that dog park. But I know if I had a dog here, I'd probably be very interested in knowing that all the other dogs that my dog might come in contact with have had their inoculations.
And so down in Dorset and Manchester, we have a dog park. It's fantastic, and it's used, and it's the group put it together, and then they turned it over to the select board, and the select board ran with it, and it's been there for years. And then actually people donated so much money for it, and it's really well taken care of. And you could always call them, and Rob Jaddy could talk to you. And so I think there's all different ways to make it happen properly, and I don't even doubt that you wouldn't look into all those proper.
Well, we need approval.
Right, but I'm just saying, so I hear a lot of concerns, and the key is that it's approval with the caveat that all of these questions.
Donna Constantino, Newport City. I just want to say that in Boston Garden, there's incentive to scoop the poop because you put the poop in a light and it makes the light work by the decomposing poop. So if we do it, I think we should get some of those. And it'd be a great thing for kids and
any other bright ideas?
I do that for my house.
Lori from City of Newport, you kind of stepped in. So when I was on the board of the First Art Community Garden, we had a situation with the city. At that time, there was a water spigot there, and there was a situation about turning the water on and not turning the water on, and I'm just wondering how that's going to work, if the spigot is still there, if dog parks even have that available. It's just because of the past concerns, I'm putting it out there, I don't know how it works with that. And I would be concerned about adding that other piece. I don't have any problem with it being in that B corner, but I think that other piece, you're gonna limit other possible uses for Gardner Park. There have been events there over the years that have used that entire area, and I think that you might limit the whole wedding venue piece if you encircle the gazebo with a dog park. Just a concern.
So I'm going to ask if somebody has a motion to allow Mr. Bernier and city manager to speak with our city attorneys and do some due diligence and come back to the council with their plan.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chris Roy, Newport Daily. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Is there a cost to it? And is there going to be any amenities that at the dog parks, that type of thing?
I heard that Newport, your paper said that they make a huge donation. So we will actually come back with the video. You're in the dog house. That's in the dog house.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. So we are actually going to wait for Mr. Bernier to come back with all of these details. I'm sure there will be a cost. I'm sure that, maybe there'll be donations and fundraising, but we do need to have the conversations with the attorneys, and we do need to have Mr. Bernier have the opportunity with the city manager to go and really do some research. They've heard all of the concerns that were brought up here, and so they will take those into account. And I trust that they will do an excellent job in getting back to us with all that information. So perhaps you might want to check back during the week or next week and see how they're doing. And
Okay.
then you'll know how much to donate.
And is there a copy of the plans that I may have, or may I have a copy of Mr. Bernier's memo?
Yes. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Bernie.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Newport City Downtown Development, anticipated vote. Who's going to be speaking on this?
That's me.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So all three of the items that I want to bring to the council's attention tonight are actually things that the council has previously affirmed. And it's just a quirk of the timing and the various grant requirements that I'm back in front of you. So these were all things that we talked about last fall, so I'll take them one by one and ask for a vote after each one. The first is about a year and a half ago, with significant support from a grant that was managed by Northern Forest Center and coming out of the process that we went through called the Rural Tourism Academy, we created a task force that used that grant to hire an outside firm, and the firm came up with a wayfinding strategy designed to try and unify the wayfinding on the Newport waterfront recreation path, and hopefully do that all the way from here through the BB Spur Rail Trail and all the way to the border crossing in BB. And that process was finished, if I remember correctly, early last fall. And it happened that the Northern Forest Center has the remains of another grant, something in the neighborhood of $17,000 or $18,000 available, and they could afford to use that grant to fabricate all of the signs we need for everything except the portion on the BB Spur Rail Trail, which we can't really sign anyway. That's a state property. We'll have to work with the state to figure out how that gets done. But basically, they have enough to do the signage from the Gateway Center to just the other side of the hospital as it turns onto the BB Spur Rail Trail. And then I think if we go to Derby and get their permission, they have enough to do the last few signs that would get from the end of the rail trail to the border crossing. So I think we talked about this last fall, actually, and approved that if we could get those signs fabricated, our Public Works Department would be willing to do the installation on them. And I was at a conference this week with colleagues from the Northern Forest Center and discovered that they thought they were waiting for formal approval that I thought we had already given. So I'm just coming back to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and asking again. I've had a conversation with Tom about this. He tells me, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but that the Public Works Department is more than prepared to do the installation. With our go-ahead, they hope to try and produce these signs for us in the next few weeks, and there's a chance we can actually get them done before the real summer season kicks in July. So the first action would be simply to approve or to affirm that upon receipt of the new signs, the City of Newport's Public Works Department would take responsibility for installing them.
Are you good with that?
Yes.
Are you good with that? Any questions? Okay, so I have a motion.
You do.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any, Ms. Hopkins?
Just one question. I'm tried looking through that, but sideways is very difficult, and my computer doesn't turn and my head doesn't turn. Does that go, so they're double-sided signs, so when you're coming off of the rail trail, you can follow it easily as well as going up the rail trail?
Yes, it will be signed both directions, though your specific example is, I think, probably the most problematic part, because so far the state is not willing to allow us to do a sign on the rail trail, which means getting off the rail trail and getting started is the challenge there. So we'll have to figure that out.
Maybe just a big arrow at the end.
Yeah. We'll just have you stand out there, Jennifer, with a big arrow.
Okay, so I have, any other comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. I'm assuming that I'm supposed to sign this fourth letter.
Actually, no, that's not, we're not to the letter yet. So that action is enough. I'll simply report that the action was taken.
Okay.
Okay, the second item is one that was in your packet. Now we're talking about a different grant entirely. And I've been holding off making this announcement, though it's thrilling, because we didn't get permission to make the announcement until this week. But back in November, December, you'll remember that Newport Downtown Development coordinated an effort with 11 different organizations, including Newport Downtown Development, to submit a $456,000 proposal to the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economy Collaborative, VOREC. And we found out at the beginning of March that we were approved for $200,000 of that grant, so nowhere near as much as we asked for, but on the other hand, $200,000 more than we had before. We've gone back, and in remarkably good spirit, the 11 organizations have cooperated to reallocate the more limited fund. And I'm in the final process right now, this week, of working out the executing documents with the state. The lead applicant is Newport Downtown Development. So as far as the state's concerned, we're responsible for the entire implementation of every one of the pieces of the project. And so the reason I'm back tonight is because there are 2 letters of support that the city gave six months ago, roughly, that we need to redo because the letters of support were for the partner organizations, and they officially need to be with Newport Downtown Development in order for the executing documents to be signed. So the first one of those was in your packet. I'll just read it for folks who are in the audience. On May 20th, 2024, Newport City Council voted, I anticipate that you will vote, to support Newport Downtown Development's proposed invasive species mitigation effort in Scotts Cove, which is bordered by the city property at Prouty Beach. So this is the part of the proposal where we'll work with Memphremagog Watershed Association, and the goal is to go after the Phragmites because it's at risk of closing off the cove and making it a lagoon. So that's and actually the money we're getting from VOREC will only pay, I think, something like 30 or 35% of the overall cost, but MWA has gone after other money successfully, apparently, and that project will go forward with your approval. So the first motion would be to allow our mayor to sign a letter on our behalf as council saying that we're supporting the effort from Newport Downtown Development to make this project happen.
What if they don't get the money?
They have the money.
They have the money.
The money has been, at this point, promised. All we're doing is the executing agreement that says, yes, we will do what we say we're going to do with the money.
Did you have your hand up?
I can tell you that for MWA, yes, they have been awarded it. It's a matter of us signing the grant agreement.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
He's part of one of our grants.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Cheney, did you have your hand up, or were you just like pointing at me like you always do? Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The third item is very similar. You'll remember that we had an agreement with the North Country Mountaineers Snowmobile Association to convert the pedestrian causeway bridge by putting a divider down the middle of it and reinforcing one side of it for snowmobile use in the wintertime that would keep pedestrians safe on one side and allow snowmobile access to Prouty Park, Pomerleau Park, to get all the way into the city. And North Country is still prepared to do that. They're prepared to raise the additional funding, if any is required, to complete that project in addition to the roughly $20,000 they would get from this grant. You had already given permission for them to do this modification. Same thing again, I put a letter, Kevin, I'm so sorry that you don't have a copy in front of you. I put a letter in front of the council members tonight because I just realized I needed one more. And that letter says that we are giving Newport Downtown Development permission to go ahead with that planned modification of the Causeway pedestrian bridge.
Okay.
Do you have a motion?
And I'll move that.
We have a motion, do you have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Comments?
So that's a great idea, but I walk back and forth a lot in the winter, and surprisingly enough, there are other people that use that bridge in the winter, and it's never plowed. So can that be part of the agreement that they also plow the pedestrian side, so pedestrians can actually use it? Because it's very difficult to walk across there when it's full of snow, so.
Mr. Barnett, can you address that?
We have never plowed that, and I really would not want to put a tractor on that bridge deck. We would destroy it. We plow the sidewalks on the bridges. I know the state even closed the walkway down here this past winter because of the damage that it does. So we have never put it. I don't think I'd want one of my guys in the tractor on that bridge deck.
Is there some type of solution?
The Causeway Bridge has a sidewalk on it that in the winter months.
Just go around?
They need to walk on that. People walk on the trestle all the time, but we're not gonna plow.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So Beth, I'll just tell you, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you and with the North Country folks to see if there's some way we can work it out. But I can't make a commitment without having a lot more
Because
conversation.
I mean, it seems like we're making that provision for the snowmobile, and it would be really nice for the local people who use that bridge in the winter to be able to walk safely.
I understand. So let's see what we can work on.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess my question might be part of the conversation as well. With the snowmobile clubs, they typically will bring their trails. Is that gonna be part of all of that? So that might be part of this conversation.
Yes, though I'll tell you that the original grant proposal called for special grooming equipment that was narrow track to get the section basically from the high school down through the waterfront plaza and across the bridge. And that's what's gotten cut. We don't have the money to do that, to buy that machinery with the lower amount of the award. So we're not quite sure yet how they're going to work that out, but it's certainly their intention to appropriately groom the snowmobile track to get it down there.
So just to be clear, so you'll continue a conversation addressing this?
I suspect that Ms. Barnes will be in touch with me to follow up.
Right, but I'm just saying, so there will be a conversation because we know that the city can't, so we just want to be sure that.
Snowmobiles are heavy, aren't they? Are they not as?
They're not
heavy
like a
as
tractor.
Okay,
No. Anyway, I'm happy to work with you on it.
yeah, great. That would be great to.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilmember Charbonneau, do you have any further questions?
No, I'm good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You are welcome. Okay,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
may I have a copy of the paperwork?
Sure, Chris. See me after.
I'm having so much fun with you tonight. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Garden and Park Soil Disposal Agreement and formality anticipated vote on this. We had, the city manager and I were asked to look at a contract so that work could begin over at Gardner Park, and it was necessary to work with Casella's entity to make sure that we put together an appropriate contract. And then we went through, put the contract together, and with council's, under advice of council, the mayor signed it so that Mr. Bertier and his team could begin timely work. So I need a motion to ratify the mayor's signature on that contract.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, comments? Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So you're all set on that one, okay? Next item on the agenda is the loan for Gardner Park soil remediation project. This is a discussion. I'm going to turn this over to the city manager to just walk us through the basics.
Sure. So this was a vote prior to me coming into the city for soil remediation of Gardner Park. And I don't want to go too far back, but it was again a brownfield site. We chose not to put it in the brownfields for particular reasons. We've applied for some grants to cover the playground equipment and that piece of it, but the soil remediation was not. So Jim went out and reached out to Some Savings Bank, who is our bank for the municipality, to get terms on both a 5-year and a 10-year. And we just, the mayor and myself, wanted to bring this proposal to the council to see if these were kind of standard terms, or if you wanted us to reach out to different banks to get different interest rates, or kind of what the temperature of the council was. Another piece to that, the original estimate from the corrective action plan was that 315, which you saw in the note. I had asked Tom if that was indeed accurate. He said that would be if the city was not doing any of the work and we just put it out to bid for an external company to do. So Tom put together his own kind of internal estimate that was included in your packet. This includes that Casella contract that was just ratified, Stone Environmental, who's overseeing the remediation, and then any time materials for our Department of Public Works to do that remediation. I believe we set up 3 trucks to haul, so we are doing our own transportation to the landfill to cover this. Again, it was really kind of on the financing piece. Again, there was kind of a 5 and a 10-year, or if another bank, if we wanted to get different proposals from other lending sources.
Thank you. Council members, thoughts?
This is just for soil remediation?
That's just to remediate the soil.
So what's all the stuff on the back of the?
So that's Tom's estimate of, so the original estimate in the corrective action plan was $315,000. Before going to the council, I had asked Tom, is that number still accurate? And so I got the answer, if we put it out to bid and didn't do any of the work ourselves, that's where that 315 number came in. We are doing most of the work ourselves, so that number has been roughly cut in half from what was originally proposed. So you're seeing that breakdown from.
Sure. Mr. Byrne, sure, go right ahead.
Jim gave me the original bond that the city, everybody bonded for to do that project. So that list that I gave you, a lot of that stuff in there is stuff I need to do now while we're actually doing the remediation. We're going to put the fabric down. Before I can bury anything, we're going to have conduit, water pipe. We just poured a concrete pad over there. We're going to move the picnic shelter that is leaning one way and relocate it. So I put this together with thinking the thoughts of the 315 to get the ground done. There is stuff in there that you may say maybe wasn't part of the bond, but to me it's all part of the groundwork, so that's why I put that out there. Just another, I don't know how soon we need to borrow the money, if we can do part of the project, so we'll know a little more. Today we actually used up our tonnage to Casella, and the reason for that is the park had changed a lot through the years, so there was a lot of sections that they put in wood chips and then put dirt back over it. We get into a large section that had about 18 inches of wood chips with dirt over it. So I removed all of the wood chips in the dirt so that it wasn't rotting after the fact. So we met our tonnage. I should know in the morning if they'll allow us to increase it, but I'll have to wait until I get that okay. So it may add another 10,000, 5 to 10,000 to that 29,000 for just the soil going to sell. Again, this is an estimate. Like I said, I'm not sure how soon the gentleman would need to have to borrow the money. If he gave us a week or so, we could tighten these numbers up.
Once I go ahead of that to you too, there is people that can be done. So it might be 2 weeks, maybe, a week, 2
I
weeks.
guess if we
before
don't
you
use
get
it
the
all,
money.
you can give it back.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
I know you're talking about the loan, but you're also talking about the process of doing it. And are we clear that the people who are going to work on this project will be fully protected from whatever remediation problems exist? So that we have all the protective gear and whatever it is necessary so no one gets harmed?
We have the environmental firm that we hired is on site anytime we're moving dirt. They've got tree monitors up for dust. As long as there's no dust, there's no hazard. There's 5 people, me being one of the 5, that are certified that got trained to deal with hazardous materials. And once we have the soil taken down, the fabric's on, any of my guys can enter that site. And last I knew, we should be receiving the playground equipment sometime this month,
So, council members, your thoughs on how you would like everyone to proceed financially? Would you like to sit with Pasumsic, or would you like further feelers to go out to other financing sources?
I know Pasumsic is our bank, but I don't know why 2 or 3 other quotes wouldn't hurt. And there doesn't seem to be an urgency, right? Colin can still do his work.
Is that correct, Tom? You could still do the work if we just get a couple of other feelers for numbers, correct?
And I think he said the numbers, he'd have a better
Better
idea in a week
understanding.
or so, but that's my thought.
My only question was, if we don't use all the money, we pay it back sooner, is there a fee?
That would be in the terms, right? So we make sure that we have that
No
payback with
prepayment
no
fee.
pre-penalty, right? That would be
I'm not against
getting.
reaching out, as long as there's no deadlines that will be.
Councilmember Charbonneau, are you good?
Yeah, but is there a timeline on this? I thought the state wanted it by a certain time.
So the city manager has said, no, we don't have a drop dead deadline.
Oh, okay. Well,
So we should be able to do, it won't take that long to get some quotes anyway, so, and then.
yeah, that's,
Yeah. So you're good?
yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good.
Okay, so you'll proceed with that, and then you'll let us know what you come back with on that. You good with that? Okay. Next on the agenda.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
There's a couple of quick housekeeping questions again. Mr. Bernie said that the city exceeded their waste at Casella. What kind, is that the contaminated soil? What kind of waste are we talking about, and what is the exact tonnage?
Mr. Bernie?
Chris, the original tonnage was 620 tons to be removed from that site. And every site that leaves that site has to have a manifest to go to Casella Waste. And yes, we exceeded that because of some of the soils that, the wood chips and whatnot that I decided to remove.
Okay, so it's not one particular substance, it's a variety of substances?
It's mostly dirt, mostly sand and just regular soils. They use it for cover at the dump.
About wood chips as well?
Yes.
And is that what the contract calls, that's a 620, or is that like a daily average, or?
That was total, Chris, that was an estimate. So we've increased that.
I'm sorry?
It's been increased.
It's been increased. That was just an estimate that they, initially thought would be the tonnage for the whole site.
So they're gonna allow the city to bring more
Correct.
waste to the facility here in Coventry.
Yes.
Okay.
You good?
Yep, thank you. Sorry, just wanna make sure
No,
it's.
you don't have to apologize, just don't ask any more questions.
Don't ask any.
The next item on the agenda are questions from, respond to award conditions for Gardner Park project with an anticipated vote. Who's going to be addressing this? Mr. Welch. Welcome, Mr. Welch. As always, we always love having you here.
Mayor, members of the City Council. Enclosed in your packet was a couple of pieces of information regarding the Vermont Community Development Program grant that was awarded for the improvements at Gardner Park is in good stead following all the work that Tom has done on the remediation. This grant was actually awarded back in 2019 in order to go through with actually receiving a grant agreement. We had to have an environmental review completed. That started a long chain of events that ultimately resulted in the corrective action plan that Tom is implementing right now. So now, close to 5 years later, we are in a position to actually move forward with a grant agreement for the equipment that has now been ordered that we hope to receive in a month or so. We received permission from the state to go ahead and order the equipment. We have received the environmental review sign-off. We have received authorization to expend funds. So at this point, one of the last remaining pieces of paperwork is the actual grant agreement. What the state is waiting for us to provide, for the city to provide, is a response to the draft grant agreement that they issued back in 2019. And so what you see in front of you in a couple of pages is labeled as response to grant agreement is some of the things that we're changing. When this grant was originally awarded, there was a plan to add an addition to the skate shack. There was plans to renovate the skate shack. That kind of went by the wayside. There were plans to put a much more elaborate skate park in, excuse me, not skate park, but splash pad. And for a number of reasons, that isn't being proceeded with, and instead it's going to be kind of a portable or a mobile type unit. Mike Brown can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be something less than what was initially outlined in the grant agreement. So with those modifications, the budget has been cut significantly from over $500,000 down to $219,000 when they were put in. Yeah, and that's all in the paperwork here. Of that, the city has committed in kind and cash donations that have already been received that Mike Brown has in hand. There were some recreation reserves that have been committed. Tom had committed $10,000 out of his capital reserve for concrete for the sidewalk. Also some labor and equipment to do landscaping work and construction of the sidewalk. So those items, which are outlined in that scope of work that I provided, are the city's commitment to meet this match of $119,000 to receive the $100,000 grant from the state. So we've amended the budget. We've asked for the grant agreement to be amended from whatever it is now to 12/31/2024, so that at the end of this calendar year, it's anticipated that the grant would be completed and the project can get wrapped up. One of the things they want to confirm is the administrator and project manager. Some of you may recall that you signed an agreement with NECA to complete some of the remaining grant projects. As I've mentioned to a few of you, NECA really isn't in that business. We did it because I wanted to be able to continue to working with the city to move some of these projects along. When we wrote this grant originally back in 2018, NVDA had agreed to serve as the administrator. So when I was preparing this response, I went back to NVDA and asked them if they would be willing to take on the administration and project management, and they've agreed to do that. So Allison Lowe is here from NVDA. Carter Finnegan is also here, a Newport resident from NVDA, and you can talk with them further about that. In the grant agreement that we're responding to, NVDA was specifically referenced in it. So we're NVDA and NCIC. NCIC doesn't exist any longer. So NVDA is what I am recommending. You just sign an agreement with them to do the project management and administration. And in terms of the contract you sign with NECA, any funds that will be charged by NVDA, which is a very minimal fee, can be taken out of that amount that you appropriated for the contract with NECA, because I only draw down on that when I work. If I'm not working on the project, we're not drawing down on that amount. So there are funds available there. And I did include that match. It's a $5,000 amount in the city's share of that $119,845. The other piece that's been amended is the project scope. As I mentioned, things have changed, so that section D is the project scope, the project budget we talked about. And so those are really the amendments that are being proposed to the grant agreement. What will happen at this point is that we'll respond to that grant agreement draft. We'll upload the comments. They'll review them. Allison has a whole list of other documents that we'll have to verify that the city has in place in order to move forward with the actual first drawdown once a grant agreement is approved. So there's still some more work to do, which NVU will pick up on. But this is the first step to move us toward an actual grant agreement. So with that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions. I do want to point out that Tom has just done a phenomenal job getting us to the point of having actually working on the remediation, and he really has saved a ton of money by having his guys get certified and doing the work there. I mean, I'm not sure there are many public works departments in Vermont would have taken that on, but we're lucky to have a director like that. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this response to the grant agreement.
So, council members, any questions?
That's very thorough.
Council member Charbonneau?
No, I'm good.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So I'm supportive of the action. I have an ancillary question that I think is this may be the best place to try and raise it, and I'm not sure, Mike, if you can answer it, if others can. Maybe, Jonathan, you're the one who can do it. When you talk about the change in scope of work, my ears prick up because I've spent 40 years in nonprofit management, and I'm super careful and attuned to the issues around designated giving. And so I'm just wondering if we have a list of the original donors to the original scope of work that was proposed, and what those designations on those gifts might have been, and if so, if there's been a change in what we were planning when we took those gifts and what we intend to do now. Are we communicating with those donors to make sure that our changes meet with their approval, because we have to meet that designation or designated purpose? So I'm not quite sure where to ask that question, but
I think Mike may be able to respond to that a little bit. Mike, is that something you've looked at all?
So we do have the list of donors from several years ago, I think 2018, 2019. We haven't solicited them. I know we've had Mike and I have had discussions, and the project plan is similar to the original scope. The fact that the playground lies on a floodplain made the splash pad much more difficult, almost impossible. And these are questions that weren't asked early on in the process. So like the recycled system, the engineered concrete splash pad lying below grade is just impossible on that location. So we found a splash pad product that lies above grade. It provides all of the same bells and whistles that we promised.
And the work.
So that's the only difference.
The work on the skate shack, Mike, aside from the addition, either the city has or plans to do those renovations anyway?
Oh, we're already doing those. Yeah, unfortunately, last year the skate shack was vandalized, so we did get some insurance money. We refurbished the entire inside of the building, and we're getting quotes right now to get siding, re-side it, windows, doors, So the entire building will be all refurbished.
So to your point, Rick, which is a very good one, I think the majority of the project is as was presented. And there's been some minor modifications in terms of what we're proposing this grant pay for. But overall, the project will essentially be completed the way it was initially proposed.
Thank you.
So,
if I could just
So there was another, and maybe Mike can share it at some point. So Mike's tracking all of the donations in terms of the grant funding that Mike Welch talked about, and then different tiers of donors, so Community National Bank, Gates Electric. There was a fundraiser line item, and I asked Mike to see if he could break down who donated in the fundraiser. But Mike is tracking based on tier how much money was donated. Again, I don't know if there was a specific, this was donated for this exactly, but Mike is keeping track of all those individual donations.
I think my primary concern, if I could just respond.
Pete, please.
My primary concern would be around the splash pad and the fact that we've moved from that kind of permanent to a more portable or movable or temporary, or I'm not sure what the word is, installation. And I understand the reasons that Mike Brown has listed, and I agree that that's the best course of action. And if there were people who gave particularly to that splash pad, my experience suggests that it would be well worth our time, and I'd be happy to help as a council member to reach out to anybody we can identify who gave significant money toward that project to explain what those issues are and just make sure that they are approving of how we move forward with it. If we have to do this after the fact, I guarantee it's going to be a headache. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, are you good?
Yes, ma'am.
I can do that again. Okay, so let me just make sure I get what you're asking us to approve. So you're asking for a motion to allow the city manager to sign off on this response agreement, and I'd like, go ahead.
What I would recommend is that the
Yes.
city council approve the submission of this
Right.
response.
Mhm.
And in so doing, you're committing, again, the resources that have been outlined, which is nothing new, the revised budget, which is now outlined here, so that by doing that, you're affirming these latest numbers, and that way the city council has kind of endorsed what we're submitting.
Right, and we don't need anything beyond that.
You will.
We'll later on, but that'll be brought back.
We will later on, but for right now, this will get us going.
Okay.
And Allison can address more if you want to talk about the next steps, but this really will get us going with the grant.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I move to approve the response to the draft grant agreement, Vermont Community Development Program, grant number 07110 IG 2018, Newport C23, as presented on May 20th.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, further comments, Ms. Grimm?
So there have been a few questions online in some of the Facebook Newport groups about the monies that have been raised over the years. And I'm just confirming that I think what I'm hearing from Mike Brown is that all of that is wrapped up in all of this. Is that correct? I just want to make sure, because there are people that are asking, like, what do we do with the money, how much it is,
Right,
all that stuff.
right, and I think that's what was just discussed, is that Mike Brown is actually going through all the numbers, and the council member also said we should go and look, and that's what's being confirmed, and the city manager confirmed that. So, yes.
I just really
Yes.
wanted to confirm that.
And so
people could
it's
hear
not
it.
like, one little group gave $500,000. It's all going to be allocated, and everybody, and Mr. Brown is watching to see who gave what. He will have an accounting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, is there like a detailed updated plan for Gardner Park? Because when I went on the website, there was like pictures of like a mock-up of an idea of what it was gonna be. But I didn't really see anything that said like what, you know, like what materials were gonna be used. I kind of had to guess by looking at the picture that it's probably gonna be wood chips. But I just, that's like kind of an important detail to know. Is there something like that on, like online that we can view to see like what the like what materials are gonna be used, what kinds of things are gonna be going into the playground.
Mr. Brown?
Yep, we have new diagrams. We'll put them on the website this week.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
You good?
There were some drawings in the council packet too. I don't know if you
But
looked at
they
them.
might not have the
May
council
not have
packet.
that.
They're online, that, you know,
Yep.
they can see those portions. I believe she wanted to see the whole plan. Somebody else had their hand up. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Do we have to sign it? Okay, next item on the agenda. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is the Newport Sailing Center lease agreement with an anticipated vote. Council members, you have in your packet the marina slip rental agreement, and I'd like to recognize our attorney, Mariah Smith. Well, I recognize him. I'd like to wink at him.
Oh.
Hello.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. So we're on the marina slip rental agreement, and I just wondered if you might just give a general, a purview of it, the agreement to the council?
Sure. The rental agreement, I believe, sorry, I didn't know I was going to be talking on this. Let me pull it up.
I know,
real
it's
quick.
a surprise. I just know that we had just gotten it, and I thought it might be easier since you had discussed it with, you know, the terms with
Right.
Mr. Bernier, so, not Mr. Bernier, I apologize.
So this is a slip agreement with the Newport Community Sailing Center. The plan is to offer them a discounted rate for their first year, but on the back end, from whatever revenues they generate, the city would be entitled to 10% of those of the net revenues at the end of the year, to help if they have a boomer year and while enjoying this first year 50% discount, the city would be able to recuperate some of that, and then it would, the subsequent year in renewals, they would be expected to pay the regular market rate that everyone else does. They don't intend to use any electricity. They'll only be using the restrooms, and we require they have insurance and indemnify the city for claims related to their use of the slips. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Council members, any questions?
In the past, there's been some questions and concerns about the bathroom usage and who's responsible for replacing whatever's used. Is that upon NCSC or is that Newport?
Did you hear that, Mariah?
A little bit. So the question is regarding the use of equipment.
Restrooms.
Restrooms.
And who would be responsible for replenishing the supplies used?
Okay. That's not covered in this right now, but you are thinking of including something where they would replenish supplies like TP and cleaning?
I can answer what we currently do, Mariah.
Yeah.
So what we currently do with our seasonal slip renters, the bathrooms and supplies are included in their slip. So we restock them as part of our budget.
Mike answered.
So, I mean, as far as this goes, I would imagine it's just included in the slip fee.
Okay, yep, that answers my
Okay.
question.
Councilmember Charbonneau, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Any further questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I serve as the secretary of the board for Newport Community Sailing Center, so I'm just going to recuse myself from the discussion and the vote.
But you'll do the supplies? No.
But I'm in charge of keeping it. Yes. I'm sure Mike will call me when they're out of toilet paper.
There we go. See, we got you covered now. Okay, so may I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the marina slip rental agreement?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have one for you, Linda.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Cal?
Jay Walsh, Newport resident. I'm curious regarding the slips. I know that for the last number of years, there's been a waiting list for slips, and I'm wondering how the club was on that list or jumped the line.
So, Mr. Brown, did you hear that? I think the question is how this particular group was selected.
They weren't on the waiting list. They didn't do the normal, like private, transient, or, you know, seasonal application process. This was just a little bit different because it's a sailing school that's partnering with the city. I do have to say that we did purchase 2 new docks, so they'll be taking a portion of one, and we're also opening up the other dock for the folks that are on the waiting list, so they'll continue to move up.
You good? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the letter of engagement for auditing services with an anticipated vote. And our auditors are Cattell, Brannigan, and Sargent. And council members, you have in your packet the auditing agreement. I don't know if you've had a chance to read through it. This is, I've read through it. It is pretty much the standard auditing boilerplate letter that auditors issue. However, I don't know if the city manager knows if you've had a chance to check, has there been a huge increase in their fee, or pretty much?
I have not had a chance.
Okay. I do believe that it's pretty within the ballpark of where they were last round. I don't know for sure, but they have in here the responsibilities of what management does, their responsibilities of what the auditors would do, that they will issue the written report and what it will all contain and the type of report that they are allowed to issue. They will issue management letter for signing off, and before they issue the report, and they will be coming in, and now at least we will have some of the old questions that were brought up and recommendations made by these auditors will be addressed. So going forward on this audit. So, but I read through it, and there's nothing in here that is different than the typical printout of their auditing letter. So may I have a motion to approve the audit agreement and have the city manager and the mayor sign it?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, any questions?
Jennifer Dearling, Newport, Vermont. Would it make sense to find out what the cost is before you move forward with it, just in case you want to put it out to bid with another firm?
And this is they've already been appointed as our. Any further discussion?
Yes. So I managed to suck it up and read the whole thing.
Oh.
I see a start date of July 23rd, 2024. I don't see an end date or an expected completion date for the contract. Is that typical?
Typical.
So we just don't know.
Well,
Then
hopefully they know, they'll get it done within their time frame, but they usually don't put the date in here because then they would have to come in and then they have to do subsequent events. It's what's called subsequent events if you go past a date that's in here. So what they want to do is not have to put that drop dead date in there now.
Okay.
Sure.
They normally come in on a Tuesday and by Thursday they're out of here.
Really?
That's been historical for years.
Okay, their report isn't done by
Right,
that
then
Thursday, but
actually it's the report I'm wondering
process,
about.
yeah,
Their
no, no.
information is all gathered, they take it back, they do their
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so the
Thank
report will be done within a certain time frame that they have to do by X amount of months, for the balance sheet. But if they put a date now, everything thereafter is subsequent events and it's more work.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. So you're signed here. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our audiovisual recording policy that we had asked our attorneys to put together, and we're now bringing that up for discussion. You have that in your packet. I'm going to ask our city attorney to walk us through this policy. It's you, Brian.
So, the record retention policy, we are doing it in an open session right now.
Well, this is the audio-visual recording policy.
Okay.
So, we can go into executive session, on this. I just wanted to know if you wanted to just walk through, because it's so general,
I can walk through it generally.
And
yeah.
then we could take it from there.
Yeah. So, I was asked to draft a recording policy concerning employee recordings of other employees and supervisors while performing their duties or in the course of their employment work. And this policy, the general rule of this policy is that no employee of the city shall make a recording of conversations or activities with or of another employee during work hours unless prior to the commencement of the recording of the conversation or activity, all parties to the conversation or activity know that the conversation or activity is being recorded. Now, it's important to note that this policy does not prohibit recordings, only secret recordings. People, in the event that employees feel like they need to record something to protect themselves or their interests, they can record conversations. They just need to make people aware that they're recording the conversation or the activities. in the exceptions that employees, while making any recordings that an employee is required by law, regulation, or other city policy to create, employees while making recordings of potential work safety concerns, and city police officers while, like, their body camera footage during traffic stops and incidents, and the use and maintenance of just security equipment and security surveillance equipment by the city are not covered or are exceptions to the policy. There are also listed specific situations of when recording is not permitted, such as privileged communications, anything involving city trade secrets or trade secrets shared with the city of other entities shared in confidence, and conversations and activities concerning communication of information designated confidential by law and persons in laboratories, if that should be self-explanatory. And this is also an event to help with public records, keeping these public records, because most of these recordings will be actually public records subject to potential requests by residents. And in order to comply with our public records retention policy, any recordings made of conversations during the course of city business that would be public records must be provided to the city manager within 2 days. That's what we have right now. Like I said, this is just a draft, and we're just discussing potential policy. I'm willing to incorporate any direction the council wants to go, and try and answer any questions I can.
So the reason I had this on and I asked our attorney to just walk us through this generally so that you could hopefully take this back now, read it, go through it, and shoot our attorneys any questions you might have regarding this, unless you would like to go into executive session now, but I think it's worth taking the time to digest it and read it, and then us bringing it back. Thoughts? No thoughts. I love my council members.
I understand the purpose of the policy is to provide for some transparency in the workplace, and make it clear for when employees may or may not use recording devices.
Correct. So, once again, is the council all right with taking this back, reading it, and then coming up with any questions that we may need to send to our council, and then we'll bring this back for a vote on the next agenda? Councilmember Charbonneau, are you all right with that?
I do have some questions.
Sure, okay.
Well, I know, for example, that the municipal building has a camera in the parking lot. That would be a recording. Would that fall under the public records request? And how long do they have to maintain footage of that? I would imagine that for a few days it's recorded over.
I'm not sure what the technology recording schedule is for the surveillance cameras, but the surveillance cameras wouldn't be covered by the requirement that everyone know that they're being recorded under this policy, but it would be covered by the records retention policy. Whether or not there's exceptions to the public record disclosure requirements, I can't say off the top of my head right now, but I believe there may be.
Is there another city or that has such a policy that we can look at to compare?
Sorry, another policy?
another city that
Is there-
has a policy like this so that the council member could compare it?
Yeah, I think we have some, for legal reasons, I'll provide them, but I would want to provide some legal reasons as to why we aren't as generalized as some of those policies are in Vermont. But those would be, I'd be providing that privately. But I will provide you some other policies you looked at from other municipalities.
Yeah, I would enjoy that. Under the purpose of this, I'm struggling to see how an employee who may or may not be touted it, is, you know, there's a matter of foster trust and transparency when a recording is a recording, it's the truth. I don't see how it could be used against somebody. I guess that's, you know, my concern. It just, it seems like it's kind of, kind of strips away any protection it might have.
Yeah.
Especially when they're taking protection, you know, for potential work safety concerns. So an employee could make a recording of what they believe might potentially be a work safety concern, as opposed to addressing it immediately with another person, a supervisor. You know, at that point they just pull out the cell phone, which really does nothing to address any safety concerns.
Yeah, and these are the, like, I'm not here to argue about policy or what should or should not be. That's the council, and that's what I take direction from the council and put what policy they want in here. So I think it'd be good for the council to debate this and decide what changes, if any, or whether it's prudent to to enact the policy. That's a council determination. I'm just here to put it on paper for you.
Right. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to need time to digest it, and
Good.
you know, any municipalities that have similar policy, it would be great to see, you know, what they might have.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I will put together some of those and send those along as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're all good? Okay.
Oh, there's a question.
Yes, I apologize.
Hi. It's my understanding that Vermont state law, there isn't a specific state law about one or two party recording. Rather, the state follows the federal guidelines of one party recording, so that as long as one party in the conversation is aware of the recording, then that recording is not unlawful. And I'm wondering how this harmonizes or does not harmonize with the law that we have now.
So we have taken all that into account.
Okay, good.
We're going through all of this for those reasons, and we're aware of that. And that's why we have a lawyer going through everything to make sure that specificity is, you know, for the council members and their concerns, that we're not breaking any laws. Ms. Hopkins?
I forgot to identify myself, Jennifer Hopkins, Newport City. You have a definition for what employees are. It seems to include I would say the council and any of the volunteers that the city has, you know, in working for them. And yet, reading the policy at one point, it is you have to submit it to your supervisor or the city manager. But do our volunteers have supervisors? And you know, is the term, does this apply for all the city council members and anybody else, such as, you know, I volunteer at, you know, at the polls? Does this cover everybody in the city?
So we will take your questions and we will definitely be discussing that, and I thank you for that. And the definitions here have been, we're addressing them.
And the other question would be, would the council be willing to share, or would the attorney be willing to share the other policies for other towns?
That I think is a privilege that we can, but I'm sure you could go research. I mean, online, I'm sure you could find other people.
Okay.
Next.
Jennifer Beerling, Newport, Vermont. I guess I would just like to echo the concerns put forward by Councilman Charbonneau. I worry about the wording of that Section 5B in reference to employees being able to secretly record with the potential of a work safety concern. I just foresee that as something that could be used in a nefarious way in order to make a secret recording. So I think the council needs to take a second look at that particular section, 5B, to, you know, do something in order to make it you know, more nailed down, if you will, because otherwise I think there's wide availability of abuse. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Laramie Water Resources timeline with an anticipated vote. That document really is a proposed contract, which for those purposes to begin looking at this agenda item, I believe we need to go into an executive session, and I would like a motion, please, for the council to make a finding that premature public general knowledge of confidential attorney-client communications made for providing legal services to the city council would place the city at a substantial disadvantage because disclosure of the otherwise confidential advice and communication would harm the city by waiving the city attorney-client privilege. May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Right.
Ayes have it and the motion is carried. May I have a motion for the council to enter into executive session to consider confidential attorney-client communications regarding this proposed contract and to make and provide legal services to the city pursuant to 1 VSA section 313A1F, and I invite our city attorney, our city manager, and Mr. Bernier into the executive session.
So,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The motion is carried, and we are in executive session. Out of executive session, no action was taken. The next item on the agenda are appointments, potential executive session, 1 VSA 313A3 and 1 VSA 313A1F. May I have a motion that the council make a finding that premature public general knowledge of the confidential attorney-client communications made for providing legal services to the city council would place the city at a substantial disadvantage because disclosure of the otherwise confidential advice and communication would harm the city by waiving the city's attorney-client privilege.
Sorry.
That's Kevin.
So moved.
There went my lifeline. All right, so may I have a motion?
I'll make that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Kevin's gonna say no. I'm gonna say no for Kevin. All those, okay. Ayes have it and the motion is carried. May I have a motion that the council enter into executive session to consider appointments of city officers and board members, and consider attorney-client communications made to provide legal services to the city regarding said appointments pursuant to 1 VSA sections 313A1F and 313A3. And I invite our city attorney, our city manager into the session.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Mayor, for clarification, what positions are we talking about?
We are talking about city officers and board members.
Can you elaborate?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it and the motion is carried and we are in executive session. Regarding, as I said, appointments to be discussed.
Is it turned
Okay.
off?
Okay, so regarding the planning commission, no appointments have been made at this time and no action has been taken. I am going to recognize council member Curtis.
Yes, that's me.
That's you.
So based upon legal counsel, I am resigning as counsel.
Aw.
It was a heck of a run.
And thank you for stepping up. The next item on the agenda is the interviews of potential candidates for the fire chief. Take your chairs. Potential executive session 1 VSA section 313A3. May I have a motion to go into executive session? I have a motion. Do I have a second? And that motion is going to include my invitation to the candidates one at a time to join us and our city attorney. Can I have a second?
Mhm.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion is carried. Chief, please stay, we are in executive session. Okay, thank you for being so patient. We're out of executive session, no action was taken in executive session. May I please have a motion to appoint Kevin Lacoste as the second assistant engineer chief and to appoint Jonathan Delabriere as the interim fire chief effective May 24th at 12 p.m.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
How will that affect his duties as city manager?
Will not.
Will not.
Any further discussion by the council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. And the reason that we did this is because both of these professionals are ready, willing, able to do the jobs, and are highly qualified. And I thank you for your service. Next item on
Madam Mayor?
the agenda.
Is there a pay increase for Mr. Delabria?
Oh, he's going to be doing it under the donation that you're. And so we haven't gotten to that point.
You haven't got.
We have not gotten to that point yet. We're now going on to, no, but we're not doing, we're done. We're back here now. So we're going to comments by members of the public. Members of the audience are reminded that members of the press are present and that these proceedings are being recorded for current and future broadcast over the city's cable television channel. Members of the audience are further reminded that Newport City Council meetings are for the purpose of allowing council members to conduct city business. City council meetings are the only time the city council discusses, deliberates, and decides upon city matters. City council meetings are held in public to promote transparency and accountability in government, but are distinct from public hearings or town meetings in that they are not meetings of the public. Members of the public shall be afforded a reasonable opportunity to express opinions about matters considered by the city council. To conduct orderly and efficient meetings, I kindly request the public's cooperation and compliance with the published guidelines when participating in the meeting. Thank you. Please wait to be recognized, and please speak through the mayor.
Madam Mayor, am I dismissed at this point, or?
Unless you want to be, health office. Yes, you are. Thank you so much for your, I really appreciate it.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Lance.
At 10:45, this is the last thing anybody wants, and I understand that. I do have one quick question. Are we going to get back to item 13 that we all thought was going to be a discussion? It was the water and sewer again. You had an executive session, no decision, but many of us had opinions that we wanted to share.
So we're bringing that back to the
Thank you.
next council.
Okay.
I have the same issue, but I'll certainly wait till the next meeting.
Right, thank you. Ms. Bjorling?
I decline.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item, new business. President Fashawn.
Just a quick reminder of the events on Monday to come out and support.
Council Member Charbonneau?
Oh, we dropped him. No comment.
He was here. Councilmember Curtis?
Just quick, I'd like to welcome our city manager, Jonathan, as an official Newport City resident as of last week.
Thank you.
Well,
And it's an open house at your house?
Sure, absolutely. Come on over.
Tonight, right? Councilmember Upwood Chase?
Just let y'all know that we are expecting the delivery of the new kiosk, the electronic kiosk, sometime this week or next. And Tom says that we should be able to install it very quickly upon its arrival. So maybe by the next council meeting, certainly by the middle of June, we should be ready to roll.
Treasurer Johnson?
No.
City Manager? Pardon me. Old business. President Fashawn? Councilmember Charbonneau? Councilmember Curtis?
Yep, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Last meeting, I told you someone had approached me about the minutes on the website in draft form, and that I hadn't looked at it. So I went online and looked at it, and the draft minutes go back to September 18th of 2023. Nothing has been updated. I'm not sure who does it. but it needs to be addressed. The only thing that was really current was the election results from the city clerk and treasurer. But since September 18th, 2023, nothing has been updated, including like the last meeting wouldn't have been, but the one before that. So there's many, many meetings that they're just in draft form.
Good. And you'll take care of that.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Council member Offer Chase,
Nothing to add, thank you.
treasurer.
Well, thank you.
So the only thing that I have to say about that is that the city manager and I will be working on putting together a more formal policy for the hiring process of the employees. I want to say congratulations to the police for their National Police Week, and I want to thank the treasurer and council member Charbonneau specifically as well for sharing their expertise, and all the council members at the forum with the state treasurer came. It was well received, and there are just a couple of signage issues that I will be working with the city manager on. We have one that we need a blind person sign, and we'll take care of that. And so on that note, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
No, number 19.
Oh, I missed one?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Next meeting date.
Oh, the next meeting date.
June 3rd.
I do that later. Okay, regularly scheduled council meeting, June 3rd, 2024. May I have a motion to set the next meeting date?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion is carried. So now we're not going to adjourn.
We're not gonna wait for Kevin. I can tell you.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the regular council meeting at 10:49 PM?
So moved.